Hey, what's going on, guys? Slim Anthem here, and welcome back to Talking Points. In this episode, we are going to be talking about my personal favorite top five zombie maps from Call of Duty, the whole franchise. So this is taking into account um, Treyarch Zombies, Infinite Warfare Infinite Warfare Zombies, Advanced Warfare Zombies, Call of Duty World War II. It takes into account all of those. Even though I never played Infinite Warfare Zombies, um, I've seen some gameplay for the Advanced Warfare Zombies, but just those two games, I wasn't crazy about the gameplay and all that. I felt like it was kind of a stretch. It just didn't have that same feeling as actual zombies that uh, Treyarch established long ago. In World War II zombies, I'm still messing with it a little bit, so it won't be in my top five count for this video. But yeah, I guess this video kind of focuses more on Treyarch's side of things. So here are my top five Treyarch zombie maps. Number five, like these were some difficult ones to deal with, like just to think about because I used to play zombies heavily back in the day, and I had to think about like some of the criteria I had to think of was what zombie maps did I want to keep playing? Like which ones did I get tired out of? Did I get burned out on more often? Um, was it like how easy was it to advance through rounds in a game? Um, what was the Easter egg like? What was the map layout like? The mood like? I had to consider all these different factors into making my decision. But number five, I would say for my fifth favorite zombies map would be Buried. Buried was a very genius idea that Treyarch came up with because before Buried, we had these ideas of just playing in playing in these different locations around the world, whether it was a swamp, an old factory, um, a toppled building with a bunch of elevators that somehow work, kind of like an MC Escher is kind of setting. But Treyarch took it a step further when they added the feature that you were able to play underground in this buried town where you had all these different buildings with different capabilities and stuff in there. There was a gunsmith, there was a candy store, there was a jail, there was a saloon, there was a bank, and and it didn't just stop right there. There was more to the map too. They added new perks like vulture aids and or vulture aid, whatever it was called, and you could go through the ghost mansion, and after fighting through a bunch of scary little bitches, I don't know what to call them, you come out on the other side on this extensively huge maze, and every time you walk through every time you go through the mansion and come back to the maze, it was this constantly changing pattern of a maze that you had to wander your way through just to get to the other side where you could go down the spiral staircase at a gazebo to get to the pack-a-punch. And then after that, um, you had the choice to either go back through the mansion and get back to the town, or if you destroyed the wishing well on the other side of the mansion, you can destroy this wishing well and then it'll teleport you back to above ground. So just the features of this map made it very, very interesting to play because you can control a character that was Leroy by giving him candy or booze and have him perform tasks for you. This is when they featured the Ray Gun Mark II, which was a big success in this DLC when Black Ops 2 released it. And also they had the Paralyzer, the Time Bomb, and the Remington New model that were spectacular guns that they included. And they even had workbenches throughout the map where you could build different parts to different machines and use them to perform tasks and defend yourself and all that. So just a lot of these components that were just brought together, and you could walk through all the mine shafts and all that, and the Easter egg. Even though the Easter egg was tough, I enjoyed the storyline behind it, and this whole grand ending that resulted from all the Easter eggs in Black Ops 2. I thought that was really fun to do, and that's why I enjoyed Buried, because it wasn't too difficult to get. Like, there were some good vantage points where you could run around, train zombies. Um, just the features on the map were just very intriguing, and there was just so much you could do. So those are my reasons why I like Buried, because I just thought that was a well put together map. Um, Coming in at number 4, my fourth favorite map from Black Ops 2 is Origins. And every time me and my friends think about Origins, we always like groan, because we just, we hate that map so much because of our multiple attempts and failures of doing the Origins Easter egg, but we eventually beaten it. But the map isn't bad at all. It's actually, I actually think it's a very good map. It's got some minor kinks to it, like mainly glitches, like the stabs disappearing. Um, it's also got problems with like the mud being so slow. Then I think it's kind of a pain in the ass, because if you're trying to run away from zombies and you get stuck in mud, then that kind of screws you over. And sometimes when you get off a tank, the zombies don't stop mega sprinting. They keep sprinting like they're chasing after a school bus. But Origins, what I really liked about it was I love this whole open map concept where you're fighting on a World War I battlefield, and they have all these old weapons that you can choose from, and they introduced the elemental stabs. These stabs were just OP, where once you pack a punch them and you charge them up and fire them, there was like no way you could die. Just the whole inclusion of the stabs and all these World War II weapons or World War II, World War One, whatever you want to call them, weapons helped to make it a good map. Like the MP40, the STG-44, both were really good guns, and they even featured a drop like called the Zombie Blood that was also very effective in helping scare some of the zombies away so they don't attack you. And they also featured challenges, stuff like get 115 headshots, fill all 4 chests with zombie souls, turn on all 6 generators, spend this many points. And those challenges led to bigger awards, stuff that can range from like a max ammo to a pack punch weapon, a free perk, and even this upgraded melee punch, where as soon as you punch a zombie, they would just go flying backwards, like kind of like the Thunder Gun. So I thought Origins, all in all, was a really good map, and there's just so many aspects to it that Treyarch added to the layout of it that literally just kind of made it up, like literally made it worth playing. Even though it gave me grief many times I played it, I'm gonna be a grown man and admit that Origins was a really good map. Coming in at number 3, this is where it started getting tough. But my third favorite zombies map has got to be Die Rise. Die Rise was one of those innovative maps that I would have never expected from Treyarch or any kind of development company or something like that. It was a genius idea to come up with this zombie map where you can play on a skyscraper and travel from floor to floor, and you can use a trample steam to launch yourself from one building to another building and be able to maneuver around the map in so many different ways. You can take so many different paths. There's probably paths that people don't even know about that you can take with trample steams and Die Rise. Like there's a way you can get to like the death corner over on top of the roof over from that overturned building. You guys probably don't even know what I mean, but there's just all these different ways you can move throughout the map, and which makes Die Rise a very difficult map is there's not really much room to train because it's all close quarter. It what really you gotta look out for when you play Die Rise is you gotta be able to. It's all about timing because you gotta relocate from one position to another position. You gotta keep moving. Of course, in the early rounds, you can pick a spot and then just circle around, kill some zombies, and move on. But once you start getting up to like round 18, you're constantly gonna be descending the floors to the building. You're gonna be jumping down the elevator shafts, and then you're gonna jump back over to the main building, and you realize that you're gonna have to take the elevator all the way up, and that's where the timing becomes an important factor because you have to figure out when is the elevator gonna reach this floor. Because if you get to the elevators and your ride isn't there, what are you gonna do when all these zombies start showing up and you're backed into a corner? But yeah, despite the fact that Die Rise was a tough map, um, I thought it had a very fun Easter egg. That one was another one that gave me grief. I'm not even kidding. I spent I spent so much time in frustration just trying to complete that Easter egg that I was glad that me and my friend Hunter and a couple randoms were able to finally beat it in the end. But yeah, there was just so much grief on that map, and that map also featured the Sliquifier, which would come back to haunt my dreams because sometimes I would play in lobbies with people where they would decide to troll me with it by shooting it on the floor. And of course, if you guys have used the Sliquifier, you know that as soon as you step on it, your character starts sliding around. Well, sometimes they would spray that stuff close to the edge, so whenever I'm walking around without even paying attention, I could step on it and I would just slide right off the building. Believe me, that's happened many times. I've also had times where the trample steam was not placed perfectly and I would launch myself off the map. Um, sometimes I would sometimes I would try to jump from building to building and a zombie would hit me as I do it and I would fall off the map. It's very frustrating stuff, but I really do like Die Rise. I thought it was a very, very um, interesting concept for a map. Um, but it's one of those things that, even though it frustrates me at times, I'm willing to keep playing it every time I think about Call of Duty Zombies. It's one of those maps that keeps coming to my head. Moving on to my second favorite map. My second favorite map in the Call of Duty Treyarch zombie franchise has got to be Ascension. Ascension, what I really like about this map is that it's very simple. It's where they first started featuring like these objectives that you had to do in the map. Like, for example, when you play maps like Keynote or Toten, like the objective was just turn the power on and be able to use the teleporter for Pack-a-Punch. But this one was clever because you had to use these lunar landers to fuel up a rocket, and once you fueled it up, you had to launch it so that way you could access Pack-a-Punch. And the map was just widespread enough where you could be able to, where you're able to do constant training of zombies and all that. It's a very open concept. Um, I thought Treyarch did a very good job in Black Ops 1 when they released it, and this was one of those maps that I constantly played over and over again. And there's always a good there's always good spots to train on that map. Um, Most of the time, I don't even open up parts of the maps because those space cadet monkeys will come down and during the boss rounds and will try to steal your perks. So I usually like to keep two of my perks open so that way I can cover the perk machines, and whenever I get a free perk, that perk will be accessed behind those closed doors so that way they can't steal that perk. So it makes my job a little bit more simpler. So I really just rely on hitting the random box and running a train around the lunar lander that's by the PhD flopper, because that was my best strategy for getting up there in rounds. In my first playthrough on Black Ops 3 when they remastered Ascension, I got to round 30 on my first try, and I was actually very satisfied with my performance. And they just made Black Ops 3 just makes it so much easier because you got all these extra abilities too. Like you can slide, and um, you can get hit 3 times instead of 2 times. Just stuff like that. But Ascension is one of those maps that, even though it's not as what's the word I'm looking for, not as detailed, and doesn't have as much doesn't have as much doesn't have as many features to it as maps like Buried and Origins did. I thought it was a very classical map to be playing, and sometimes classic maps are what gets the wheels going, you know. Sometimes it just takes a classic map to make Call of Duty successful. Keeping that in mind, before I get to my number one pick for my favorite zombie map of all time, here's some honorable mentions I would like to bring up. Two of them being one honorable mention is Noctua Untoten. Let's just face it, everyone loves Noctua Untoten. You can't play zombies without thinking about where it all started, Noctua Untoten. They've made 3 different variations of that map. There was the original World at War version that was released after the completion of the campaign. There was the Black Ops 1 remastered version. And then there was the Black Ops 3 Zombie Chronicles version, which was like the remastered version. I love playing that map because it's very simplistic. You got 3 different areas you can go. Mystery box stays in one place, and especially if you play it in the Black Ops 3 version, you got the Wonder Fizz right there, so you can just keep drinking perks and drinking perks. It's such a very, very basic. It gives you that intense Nazi zombies kind of theme. It really brings in and sets the mood for the game. My other honorable mention I like to bring up is Call of the Dead. Love Call of the Dead. But just like Noctua Untoten, these 2 maps do not take place in my top 5 because although Call of the Dead every time I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I love that map. I don't play it for some reason. Why is that? Well, it's because there's one thing that really irritates me about this map, and that's the fog. I mean, granted, the fog really added to the mood of the map, and I can understand that because it's a Siberian thing, but I think the map would be like 10 times better if they didn't have the fog. It's just so frustrating when you play this map and you got George Romero on your ass and you're trying to shoot zombies and train and stuff like that, and then George shows up, he gets ticked off, and then you have to run him back to the water. But I thought the cast was perfect. You had Michael Rooker, Robert Englund, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and you had Danny Trejo. You had those four characters, and that really I thought was a very solid cast for the map. Um, yeah, Call of the Dead was up to that point in the zombie maps that were released by Treyarch. That one was my favorite at that time when it was released because you could zip line. Oh my god, I loved the zip line feature so much. But the thing that kind of sucked about it was like it's like there wasn't really much you could do. I wish it would have gone both ways, you know? Like you had to run all the way around the map just to get back to a zip line, and it would only take you like a short amount of distance. I mean, granted, the lighthouse to the boat thing takes you quite a bit, takes you to the other side of the map, but um, sometimes you just don't know what's going to be on the other side. Like you might walk into a huge crowd of zombies, and of course there was that glitch where you can get onside the cargo or on top of the cargo thing on the ship, and that was pretty cool. I still do that every time I play the game. But yeah, the fog in the water just really kind of irritates me. Like if you stand in the water too long, you get frozen as an ice cube, and then you have to wait until a zombie or another teammate hits you before you can get freed and move around the map again. But yeah, I thought Call of the Dead was fun, and it was the first it was the first Call of Duty map that had like an actual set in stone Easter egg to do. There were two different Easter eggs. They were all the same ending, but there were like two different variations. There was one that you could do for a single player, and then there was one for a lobby of four. Um, but yeah, Call of the Dead was still a fun map, just not what I would expect for my top 10 or for my top 5. Top 10 for sure, but top 5 now. So, what is my favorite map in all of Treyarch's zombie creations? Well, interesting enough, I'm going to have to go with Call of the Dead's cousin, Mob of the Dead. I gotta tell you, I think Black Ops 2 was probably the best when it comes to making zombie maps. I mean, Transit wasn't that bad, but that's a different story. Um, but yeah, Mob of the Dead was my favorite zombie map of all time. Oh my god, the whole Alcatraz and gangster theme. Every time I play zombies, I have to play Mob of the Dead. Like, it just, it was just so, like, I just love the idea that you can be able to revive yourself by using an afterlife, and that you were able to find these parts to a plane, fly to the Golden Gate Bridge. In fact, you could stay there for as long as you freaking want, as long as you're able to train and deal with all of the Brutuses running around you. But holy cow, that map and that Easter egg, that was really fun. And like that was the first map that featured like an extra lethal thing, and that was the Hell's Retriever. And when they added the Hell's Retriever and you had all these weapons that you could use, and you had Jug and the zombie shield, you were unstoppable. And that's when they first started introducing Electric Cherry. And oh my god, like if you had an LMG and you reloaded that sucker, it would shoot out so much electricity and it would kill zombies all around you. Like, that map was just fantastic. I would highly recommend that. If there's one map I want you to get right now, get Mob of the Dead. And you could train anywhere you wanted to. You could go to the docks, even though that's a little tough. You could go to you can go to the cafeteria, which is a good place to train. The roof kind of iffy on that because it's kind of like it's kind of a 50-50 shot. Like, you don't know if it's going to work out or not. Um, because sometimes you get cornered, sometimes you can break free, and your Hell's Retriever isn't really as effective in the higher rounds. But the best place to train is the Golden Gate Bridge, because if you have claymores, that's another thing too that really helps out. Is if you have claymores and you put those babies down, you can like kill zombies like left and right, and pack a punch is there. You can keep pack a punching your weapons and all that. Oh my god, like Mob of the Dead was just an awesome thing. I'm trying to think what else I can say about it. And one of the best features that I liked about Mob of the Dead was the Easter egg song, because it had Rusty Cage by Johnny Cash represent. I love that song, and that's always the goal of me and Hunter whenever we play Mob of the Dead, is like, we gotta get the song going. But yeah, those are my top 5 zombie maps plus honorable mentions. Um, Yeah, sorry I didn't include like any Black Ops 3 maps. I mean, I just don't really like the Black Ops 3 maps. I mean, I see what they were doing with them and all that, but I think I just like the Zombie Chronicles remastered version of the maps better than just the regular ones. But I felt like Treyarch did a lot better with Zombie Chronicles than just the normal Black Ops 3 maps. But yeah, those are my top 5 picks. I'm interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are about what your favorite zombie maps are, whether it's by Treyarch, by Infinity Ward, or by Sledgehammer. Um, but yeah, please let me know. Drop a comment below. Let me know what your top 5 are, or if you agree or disagree with my list. Any feedback, you can put anything there, even a smiley face emoji if you want to. I don't even care, but I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Talking Points. As always, I hope you guys stay tuned for future episodes, whether it's for this show or other shows that I do on my channel. Drop a like as well. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and I will catch you all later. See ya.